This guy is. What is he on? Meth? Weed?
I have no idea, bro. Trank.
Barefoot? Crank, did you say? As in the
Trank.
movie?
What are you
Oh,
doing? What you doing? Oh, he working. He working
working.
over there,
Oh my goodness. Eric, what did you just force me to watch?
Okay, so that is a junkie in San Francisco trying to destroy a traffic light. Okay, so for those
Mm-hmm.
that don't know, I believe, I mean, Ellis definitely runs through the Tenderloin, which is notoriously the open air drug market. You hear it constantly.
Yep.
Mayor London Breed, who, of course, paid a $23,000 ethics fine. Not what this is about. She declared the Tenderloin a state of emergency because people were dropping like flies. The drug trade is through the roof. She also said that the Honduran immigrants were kind of spearheading the drug trade there, and people got angry at her for that. So this man who's climbed up on the traffic light and is trying to destroy it with his bare feet. And of course, I see it from that account. Shout out Oakland State of Mind. It's just an Instagram I found recently. And I saw a gentleman in there who has a pretty big following. He's kind of like this, independent Bay Area rapper. He does a podcast. So he's not, he's not just a random guy. I mean, he is a random guy, but he's not just like, you know, um, a faceless commenter. It's a guy with a following, a
Mm-hmm.
guy that people listen to. And he said, and it's very difficult to find. There's a lot of comments on the video. And I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe they deleted it. I don't know what happened, but I can't find it. It's a couple thousand comments that I have to sift through. But basically, what he said, this is a grown man. We're talking about a man in his 40s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who a successful podcaster, business owner, who said, "This is why we need to have more compassion, and we need more." And I'm paraphrasing here, but we need to have more compassion, and we need more social programs, and we need affordable housing. So this grown man thinks that more programs, quote unquote programs, and affordable housing is going to stop that. And I said that I thought it was a little naive. And of course, people jumped down my throat on Instagram saying that I was heartless, because it gets to a point where these people in San Francisco have been so insanely brainwashed that anybody who allows who doesn't want to stop a junkie from quite literally destroying the city, right? And that's it. Look, I don't want to be like Mr. Righteous here, but that's incredibly dangerous. He could fall off, he could hit somebody in the head. Of course, it's supposed to stop traffic. So think about the layers of how dangerous this actually is. And anybody who wants to stop it, as far as this mildly famous podcaster goes, is heartless. So he said that I didn't have a heart because I wanted to stop. I grew up in San Francisco. I don't want to see this happen. I don't hate San Francisco. Well, I do hate San Francisco, but that's a different story. So it's my point is, how do you suggest, as a grown man, not a 19-year-old college girl, as a grown man, that we just need more social programs, bro? They've been handing out tents in the Tenderloin, so that, I mean, if you go to Civic Center outside of City Hall outside, they have matching tents because the city has been giving it to the bums, to the junkies. And so he wants to talk about compassion. He wants to talk about city programs. What program do you suggest, bro? They already have fentanyl test strips. You can get a clean needle exchange. You can get everything you need. Of course, they're not going to offer you a way to kick the habit. They're not gonna, they don't know how we're gonna set up a place for you to maybe try to go get clean at NA or something, but we can help you, test the drugs for fentanyl. And then last thing here, as far as talking about affordable housing, do you think for one split second that the political regime there isn't partly responsible for the outrageous cost of housing? Think about it. You can go to San Francisco and you see things under construction for years. It's all tied up in red tape. In Arizona, you could see things go up in 2 months. You could see a building go up in 6 to 8 weeks. In San Francisco, same thing in New York. Scaffolding will be there for years because they make it impossible. So the cost of everything goes through the roof. And the one thing that San Francisco has yet to, as far as I can tell, has yet to capitulate on, is allowing these people to do drugs at their affordable housing. So that's the one thing that I don't believe they've bent the knee on yet. So even if they start offering these people tiny houses or whatever Gavin Newsom wants to do, different story, they are going to say that you can't do drugs in this housing, that we're going to provide for you at the taxpayer dime. And for that reason alone, 90% of these people are not going to take them up on their offer. So it's crazy to me that when I say this in an Instagram comment, I am now deemed the one that's heartless, because these people have been so manipulated, so controlled, that they think the way to stop a guy from literally destroying the city while he's high on meth or whatever it is, I don't know what makes you do that, that I am the heartless one. And they have zero compassion for the taxpaying citizens of San Francisco. They have zero compassion for the business owners. They have zero capacity for the people who have to walk over needles and poop in tents. But saying that this guy should be, I don't know, maybe jailed, maybe there's got to be something. You can't just let him run the street. But that's what they're going to do. And if you don't allow that to happen, you will be the one that is deemed a cold, heartless person, which might be true. Fine, sure, but you guys aren't going to fix the problem. So, I know I said last thing, but this is really the last thing. Where else do you see this? Do you see it? You don't even see this in New York. Do you see this in Toronto? Do you see this anywhere?
No.
You allow you. It happens where you allow it to happen. So I'm just genuinely curious. Like, do you see it in any big Canadian cities? Where else does this go on?
I don't know. And I think the obvious and easy answer is there needs to be some sort of mandatory rehab center where you can't leave for however long they determine. Or prison, of course. That should be the obvious choice. And and what I want, because I think that's an easy thing to say. And just like the people who are calling you a monster, this is the thing. They want to appear as the good people. Like, they don't care about the outcome. They don't care about, the solution or how hard it may take to come up with it. They just want to take the easy route to sound like a good person. I don't know what the answer is. I think what the answer would be some sort of mandatory rehab where you can make sure the person actually gets clean. And then I side on the way of like personal rights. Can you force a person? But if they were going to go to jail for crimes anyway, and the choice is go to jail for 3 months or go to rehab for 3 months, I would think most people would probably choose the rehab thing because they treat you normally. You just can't leave there. Um, but I
But
think
when
the
they're
people
giving
who
them
are,
housing, so like, I mean, if you
and yeah, I want to focus on the affordable housing thing too, which is insane that you're just giving people housing. I think all the programs that are labeled as affordable housing, they're all scams. The
yes.
real way to make affordable housing is to make your economy good and make sure there's enough homes for people. I know where I live, there aren't enough homes, and there's no talk from any party in this country, with seats, that is, with actual political power, of lowering the immigration level. So you're never going to have affordable housing if you keep pouring in immigrants. And it doesn't matter where they're from. We'll say Irish and Italian and Norwegian immigrants. If there's too many people like that, then you're not going to have affordable housing. You're not going to have good wages. That's just something somebody always says, when they say, Canada's population is declining or any population is declining. So we have to bring in immigrants. My answer to that is why? Who benefits from this ever growing population other than the government to bring in more tax revenue? Now, I'm not saying we need to stop having children. I'm not making an argument for less people. What I'm making an argument for is if our economy is declining, there's no place for people to live. People are, strung out on drugs. People are depressed, needing to leech off the government. It's probably a sign that there's something wrong with the way we're doing things. And I think one of the main drivers of low wages, housing costs, traffic is bringing in too many people. And I don't hear many people talking about that. I mean, our goal here in Canada is 500,000 people a year. And you think about that, we have like 37 million people. That's, 1/70th of our population every single year. We increase it. And that's a hell of a lot. And it's way higher rate than America does it. Everybody says 1 to 2 million, but let's be generous and say like 10 million. That would be, maybe that wouldn't be, that would be 1/35th as well. That would be the equivalent, I think, if we're going off of 350 million. I'm not sure how it is, but we don't do this thing where we say, hey, you got to go and live in the middle of nowhere, which is another instance. If you want to come into this country, go build up a town and make that into a profitable region. It will flourish there. Housing prices will be low for at least some time until the population becomes too great, and people want to go there because you've built up a town. The counter to that might be, well, you're building up enclaves of people from different cultures. Well, you can mix and match. Maybe you can put some Indian people with some Norwegian people, and then you won't have these weird enclaves. But the thing is, they do that anyways. That's how it is, anyways. Here, the immigration system, excuse me, we live in is terrible. It's not well thought out. They don't care. And the reason that I think so many of these cities are bad, just like the immigration system we have, is because they don't plan out these things because they don't care. So if you talk about a city like New York, which is admittedly better than Toronto in this sense, Toronto, probably Los Angeles as well. It's like they never thought that this population would get this out of control, so they didn't build it to expand like that. What we have in Ontario, the 401 highway system, the 400 series highway they call it, it's built in a manner that they can't expand it. So you're driving down the highway, and on both sides, maybe you have, if you're lucky, in some areas, enough room for, add 4 or 5 more lanes. It's not going to happen though, because then they have to rebuild the on ramps and the off ramps. And on the other side, guess what? It's Lake Ontario and buildings and railroad. They can't just uproot all the infrastructure they've already built around it. So what they have is a 4 lane highway on either side in some parts, goes down to 2 at some points, and there's no way to make it bigger. So they never planned for this, and then they just flood more people in. And I'd have to imagine that when you get into places like San Francisco in LA, there's just so many people. Where how are the cops going to get to this guy? How are they going to give all these people, all these homeless people, housing? They're giving it to illegal immigrants instead. So I don't know where you just come up with all these free houses. Where does this get built? Well, the government pays a company to build a free house for somebody. And where does that money come from? It comes from the taxpayers. Well, why would you pay taxes when you can just get a house for free? So it's this weird, sick cycle, I think, Eric, of people just not caring and just being like, oh, we need more people. We need more taxpayer money. And this is what you get. You get drug addicts, high priced housing, places people don't want to live, people pooping on the streets, Eric.
Yeah, well, it's all a scam, like you said. The housing stuff is always every single time a scam, and we know that even if they do this, they create these little tiny home villages. They are going to become junkie dens immediately. Do you think for one split second the people that are given free stuff are going to take good care of it and get back up on their feet and move out, and then somebody else is going to move in? No, the places are going to be destroyed. And last thing here, I promise, for the third time, because I just thought about this. We are told constantly, ad nauseum, that white men are the problem. But when it's a junkie, it's not a problem. Okay, so if they can, if you're dependent on the government and you're dependent on the little pennies that they're going to throw you down through these programs, then you're okay. But if you're a white man who might run a successful business, then you're going to be a threat. Same thing with they took Aunt Jemima off the syrup, but they put RuPaul on another thing, right? So you can't have a regular black woman, but you can have a black man dressed up as a black woman, because it's always every single time about their agenda. It's absolutely bizarre.
I guess I got to do math.